one of Rich Dad's largest and most active Cashflow clubs. It is a volunteer-run business school that uses simulations to teach investing, finance, and entrepreneurship. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rich Dad's Cashflow Clubs. My name is Roger Moore. Most people know me as 007. And for those who know my dad, he's also Roger Moore, so you can also call me Junior, Roger Moore Jr. We're here to talk about investing, business, and finance. And of course, the story of our book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which should be available in every bookstore in the country. I just heard this morning that they all sold out. You know, a lot of people are buying it now and they're getting serious about their financial education. We're in the middle of a recession, so you should be taking responsibility for yourself and your family. Don't just rely on one source of income, that being your salary. It's not going to be there forever because people are getting laid off. Just last week, 33 people got laid off from a media house. So nobody is immune. And as this recession deepens, eventually you're going to have public workers getting laid off and downsized. It's going to happen. So you need other sources of income, and you need the financial education to find those other sources of income. So today we're going to talk a lot about Rich Dad Poor Dad itself. We're going to talk about the Cashflow Club, and we're going to talk about assets, and of course some other topics as we go along. And then we're going to take some calls from the public because we give free business and financial advice and investment advice. You know, during a recession, we always say that it is actually the best time to invest by a long shot. This is the time you start business. This is the time you start looking at real estate investments. This is the time you start looking at deals. This is the time to get educated. Right. So the story of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and if you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book, 6-time New York Times bestseller, and the tagline for the book is "What the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not." Now, the story of Rich Dad Poor Dad is, of course, about Robert Kiyosaki's biological dad, who was his poor dad, and his best friend's dad, that was his rich dad. And his poor dad actually had a PhD in education, and his rich dad dropped out of high school. So, you know, a lot of very successful business stories, and we are amazed by this, a lot of successful business stories or business people dropped out of school. And there's a reason for that. Now, I'm not telling you to drop out of school, kids. You got to get your education. You have to learn to read and write and function in today's society if you want to make it in business. But doing a PhD or a master's or even a degree might not be necessary if you want to be successful in business. So Robert Kiyosaki's best friend dad dropped out of high school and started business. He learned to sell first, which is the most important skill in business and investing. Look at any successful business story in Trinidad and Tobago. They all started off in sales. Right? So you just have to look at the evidence. Norman Sabga, Cyril Dupree, all the great business leaders of our time, they all started off in sales. The ability to sell is the number one skill in business and investing. And that is still not taught in our education system. Even a degree program in business, you're not going to learn how to sell. Worse yet, even in an entrepreneurship program, they don't teach you to sell. They don't teach you the number one skill. So we at Cashflow Club, back in 2005, we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I finally read it because some of my landlady and her family were trying to get me to read it for the longest while. And I was, ducking them because I didn't like to read. And eventually I realized, all the rich kids in my school were reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I thought, hey, that's kind of unfair. And I observed the rich kids in my school because I did my degree program at Roy Tech on Henry Street in business administration from the University of New Brunswick. And, the rich kids, they were slack. They weren't sitting down in front of the class like me. They weren't trying to get A's and B's in their courses. They were sitting down in the back, and during break time, they go smoke cigarettes. And, I found that was kind of strange. Aren't these the people we're going to be working for? I found it was very unfair. So when I realized one of the kids were reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I had a crush on her. Her dad had this huge architectural firm, and I know she's a rich kid, and she was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I asked her, "Hey, why are you reading that book?" And she said, "Well, my dad making me read it. It's quite good." I said, "Can I borrow it a second?" So I borrowed a book from her, and I just read the introduction. And folks, I want you to do one thing. As soon as all the bookstores start reordering the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, because I heard a lot of them are sold out, call the bookstores in advance to make sure they have it before you try to, just pay them a visit. Call and find out if they still have it in stock. Just read the introduction of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then try your best, try your ultimate best not to buy it. It's going to take a lot out of you not to purchase Rich Dad Poor Dad once you read the introduction. That's what happened to me. After I read the introduction, I went out that same day and bought Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it forever changed my life and the direction of my life. Prior to Rich Dad Poor Dad, I wanted to do a PhD. I was heading down that path. My sister was a doctor. My sister became a doctor at age 23. I'm from a very educated family. My dad is an engineer. My mom is an accountant with a degree in science. All my cousins are lawyers, doctors, and accountants, and engineers. My family has been in the oil business going back since it started. They're all engineers and they're all very knowledgeable in that field. I was the one breaking the mold. So when I decided to go into business, after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, my family, they were a bit disgusted. When I started the Cashflow Club while in school, I realized, this thing, I have to dig deeper and see how far this rabbit hole goes. We realized that Robert Kiyosaki invented a simulation that taught the same thing. It's called Cashflow 101. It's also better known as a board game. I purchased it with my friends who also read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And we started using these simulations to learn. We didn't use it to teach at first. We just wanted it for ourselves because we all wanted to become rich. We didn't want to work for the other rich kids. We wanted to be rich ourselves. So we started playing and we realized how much it was teaching. So we went to our finance lecturer, the late Cecil Sylvester, and we said, "Hey, we found this thing that basically teaching us an entire semester of finance and business and investing in just an hour or two. We're totally blown away." And he discouraged us. He said, "Roger, put that crap down and go do your homework. Go focus on your group project. You want an A, right? If you don't focus on your project, you wouldn't get an A and you wouldn't get a job." And as we say at Cashflow, JOB stands for
Just over broke.
Just over broke. That's what JOB stands for. And lots of people out there and lots of listeners just have a JOB and they're struggling financially. And there's a reason why vast majority of people are struggling financially. It's because our education system doesn't teach you anything about money, about finance, and about investing. So you can go right on through from kindergarten all the way to PhD and not learn anything about money. So from the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the engineers, the managers, the janitors, everybody struggles financially. When we go out and we meet managers at financial institutions who making $35,000 and $45,000 a month, you would assume just by the car they drive and the house they live in that they're living a different life. They're making some money. But when you go through their financial statements, it tells a different story.
They just broke at a higher level.
They have high expenses. They have an expensive home, meaning high mortgage payments. They drive an expensive car, meaning high car payments. They have a lot of loans. The kids go to private school, so that's in their expense columns as well. They have 2 cars, heavy mortgage payments, high expenses, and they live the high life. The expenses are high. They go out to nice places and spend a lot more money than usual. Their lifestyle, no matter who you are, without financial education, your lifestyle always catches up to your income. And that only happens because of a lack of financial education. So this is what we want to reverse. We want more people to become financially educated. Whether you do it through our programs or you do it on your own. We want more Trinidadians and Tobagonians to become financially educated. And even people throughout the entire Caribbean region and beyond. We want more people to become financially educated. So you can go out there and create jobs and create opportunities for everyone else who are now beginning that journey as well. Poverty is a serious problem. And as the great Mahatma Gandhi said, the worst form of violence is poverty. The worst form of violence is poverty. It is absolutely horrible. It is a crime against humanity. And what can deal with that problem in a major way? Financial education. And not just financial education, because finance is a boring subject. But when you use simulations to teach, because our brains are wired for simulations, it brings out our inner genius. And in our school system, we are told that our brains are static. You're either bright
or you're dunce.
You're not told that you're a genius. Every single human being is a genius. Every human being. Once you use simulations to teach. And in the aerospace industry and the military, they all use simulations to teach. They hardly use classroom style. When they're preparing for war, they don't send their soldiers to the classroom to prepare for exams. They don't cram the night before a war to memorize all the answers or how to answer the questions. They send them to the battlefield, the simulated battlefield, to do simulated battles. They call it war games. So if that works for them, our simple question is, why not have simulation-based education in the education system? And that's what we do. We use simulations to teach business, investing, and finance. You have to teach finance and investing with entrepreneurship and business for people to understand it. Finance is the language of business. So things like return on investment. What's the formula for return on investment? You remember?
Annual
annual income over
total investment. Capital invested. Yeah.
That is a very important formula. Annual income over total investment. Very, very important formula. We at Cashflow Club, our members are trained via simulations. They're trained to aim for 30% return and
higher.
Over. 30% and over. Now, inflation is what? 8%?
7 to 8%, yeah.
Inflation is about, let's say it's 7%. If inflation is at 7% and you invest in a fund that grows at 3%, do you think you're forging ahead or falling behind significantly? It's obvious, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And people don't know that. Just last week, I showed a class how just investing in my business, because we realized, hey, we can do expos with Cashflow. We entered this expo called Mommy Mode, and this expo was targeted to parents, young parents with children and babies, right? Wow. So all the booths were selling baby clothes and all this stuff I try to avoid. Baby clothes and baby shoes and all this stuff for babies, right? We decided to invest in that expo. It cost me $1,500, right? And with that, I got a lot of names down on my list to do Cashflow sessions, to do Cashflow courses, right? And so far, we closed on 11 of them. So I'm going to work out the return on investment live on air for you to show you the power of financial education. Because we're not ashamed and afraid of talking about money. It is a subject that everybody should be more open to. money is not the root of all evil. The lack of money, most likely, is the root of all evil. So I'm going to work out. It's annual income over total investment. So I made $11,000 so far, divided by 1,500. So annual income over total investment equals 7.33 multiplied by 100. My return on investment is 733% return. Compare that to a fund,
a mutual fund
that grows at 3 and 4%. I'm not saying those funds are bad. They are perfect for those who are not financially educated and those who don't think financial education is important. Really and truly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Cashflow Clubs is not for everybody. It is not for everybody. It is only for those that want to be business owners and investors. It's only for those that want financial freedom. Not everybody desires financial freedom. Some people love being middle class. Some people love being what they call comfortable. It's okay. They can stay there. So the best investments for them would be what most people invest in, mutual funds and other things. We want something better. And that's why we aim for a higher return.
We want much more out of life. We're trying to make the best of our finances. We're trying to make the best investments and best returns on our investment so that we can have more out of our efforts.
Exactly. And to really, when you learn cash flow, when you see cash flow in action, the only way to duplicate that in real life, you have to be in the sales profession, either part-time or full-time. You have to perfect the ability to sell. And my friend Kern here, when he left the fire service, you went straight into sales, am I right?
Directly into sales. And I'm not saying that I have in any way perfected it, because I think that it's always a learning process in anything that you're doing. But I've definitely seen the difference between when I started and where I am now. The confidence level is on an all-time high. The knowledge level is a lot better. And I must say that with more knowledge comes more confidence, but also with more practice comes more confidence.
Practice makes
and
perfect.
There we go again, talking about the simulation or the real thing.
Yeah.
The better you get is determined by how much you practice.
Yep. Because based on neuroscience, based on what we call the cone of learning, reading is actually one of the worst ways to learn. You only remember 10% of what you read. Whereas with a simulation, you remember 90% and more. Doing the real thing, you remember close to everything.
100%.
Most people just do the real thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to take your calls and we want to help you with your financial issues live on air. Your business issues, your financial issues, or even if you want free investment advice, free financial advice, we want you to call on the show. So give us a call.
We take your calls now. 625-2759. 623-8255. 624-7729.
Very good. So, our main number, in case you missed the 3, is 623-8255. That's 623-8255. We are taking your calls live on air.
And while we're waiting on calls, Rog, I just want to mention a fellow entrepreneur and myself have been having conversations about how to improve the foreign exchange situation in Trinidad and Tobago, and we simply came up with find an investment, a business, or some way to generate foreign exchange so that you bring foreign exchange into the country instead of sending it out like most businesses do.
And what have you found? What business?
Well, I don't want to mention it right now because it's still in the workings, but definitely it has to do with franchise.
Okay, very good. Is that the iMarkets Live thing? No. Okay. Well, that's another discussion.
That's another one.
So what you realize, folks, is that Trinidad and Tobago has a lot of opportunity. This is an emerging economy. An emerging economy with oil and gas. And we have a caller. Good morning. Welcome to Rich Dad's Cashflow Clubs.
Morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I just want to say I'm enjoying your program very well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm a business owner myself, and I just wanted to find out the procedure in you doing your courses. As I just, knowledge is everything. So I just wanted to just get information on exactly when and how could we go about a course, because I just came into my van to go for lunch and I asked about it.
Okay, great. Good question. So this Saturday, we actually have a couple introductory workshops at my office in St. Augustine. We have one from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and another one from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's our introductory Cashflow Club workshops. I can give you my number live on air so that you can contact me later and get more information. And this is for callers out there as well. My number is 768-6761. This is my personal mobile number, 768-6761. So you can call me for more information after the show, or you could message me on WhatsApp. Or if you forgot my number, you can find me on Facebook, Roger Moore, and message me there. And we have workshops on Saturday, and we have 2 courses starting in early December. One on Tuesday, the 6th of December, and another one on Thursday, the 8th of December. And those will be 6 weeks long and everything.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. I will contact you.
All right,
great. Thanks for calling.
Take care. Right. And we are here to take your calls at 623-8255. And we have a caller. Good morning. Welcome to Rich Dad's Cashflow Clubs. And we lost that caller. So give us a call anytime at 623-8255. We're live on air and we're here to take your calls. Now, again, Mahatma Gandhi said, the worst form of violence is poverty. And it's so true. There's an ongoing debate right now whether our group has found the solution to poverty. And we have a call on the line. Welcome to Rich Dad's Cashflow Clubs. Good morning.
Welcome, caller.
Good morning. This is Gail.
Morning.
Morning, Gail.
Morning. I'd like to get your number, please, to call you.
Sure. My number is 768 67.
There's a 7 6 8
6 7 6 7
6 7
6 1.
6 1. Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, you got it.
Only 3 is 6. No, 7 6 8 6 7 1. Any more?
Nah, it's 768 6761.
671 and
6761. 768 6761.
7 6 8
6761. 61.
61.
6 1.
Correct.
All right.
Roger Moore, 007.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Very good. So, we are here to take your calls. We are live on the show. We give free business and financial advice. And for those who want further information on our courses and our workshops, you can call me at 768-6761 after the show, or message me on WhatsApp, or message me on Facebook. My name is Roger Moore. If you can't find me on Facebook for some strange reason, then you can find Cashflow Clubs TNT and Cashflow Clubs Eastern Caribbean. Now, there's a quote by Dr. Rudolph Tanzi. He's a neuroscientist. He wrote a book called Super Brain. Basically, it teaches you about your inner genius. And he says that the brain does not know the difference between mental or physical effort. The brain does not know the difference between mental or physical effort. So when you do a cash flow session or you do a cash flow course and you constantly use simulations, what happens is that it fools your brain into thinking you're already in business or you're already investing. And with that constant repetition, when you eventually graduate from the course, you get addicted
Yes,
to
you
making
do.
money. And that is not a bad thing. That is actually one of the most important things of all.
Because you keep searching for ways to do it.
Exactly. And people throughout Cashflow Club find all kind of ways to make money because it's ridiculous. Everywhere out there is opportunity. But we're not trained to find that opportunity. So Cashflow Club is a game changer in every way possible, to the point where it actually makes you question our education system. Now, we're not saying...
And question your job.
And question your job. I'm not saying that the education system is a failure. It's actually a roaring success. It is doing exactly what it's designed to do, which is produce employees. Employees that don't question. Employees that do rote tasks. Employees that obey orders extremely well.
Correct.
Cashflow Club does something different to people. It makes you question. So we have 1 more minute on air, and I would like to close with a quote from Robert Kiyosaki himself. And this is a very important quote. This says that the first country that institutes true financial education in the school system will be the next country that leads the world. And we believe that is true. Finance is a very powerful subject. And we have just made the decision to start training teenagers.
Here we go.
It's going to cause a lot of trouble and bacchanal, but we know it's going to drastically change the country. So from January, we'll be training schools, high schools with Cashflow Club's programs.
But Raj, we had experience with that before, right?
Oh, yeah. And those kids got in trouble for making money in school. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and listening to Rich Dad's Cashflow Club on Air. My name is Roger Moore, and we're here with
Kuhn O'Brien.
We'll be here next week at the same time. Thank you very much, guys. The book Rich Dad Poor Dad has impacted millions of lives worldwide. It is a 6-time New York Times bestseller and written in over 150 languages. The tagline for the book is what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. We run one of Rich Dad's largest and most active Cashflow clubs. It is a volunteer-run business school that uses simulations to teach investing, finance, and entrepreneurship.